What is going on, everybody? Hockey Time here, back again for another edition of the NHL Power Rankings. Apologies for this being up a bit later than I would have otherwise liked. We, of course, had the Christmas holiday and all the travel that comes with that, so the week was a little bit fudged up because of the schedule changes. And then, of course, I was with family and some friends over the weekend, so did not want to interrupt that in order to record and did not have my usual setup. So here we are on Monday. These rankings are going to cover from Saturday, December 23rd, all the way through the Winter Classic that occurred today. So a little bit longer of a stretch of games, all things considered, than usual. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to move forward with the rankings that would otherwise be posted this Friday because that's, of course, just 4 days worth of games. So we'll see if maybe I stretch it through Saturday or Sunday, and then we have one more shortened week that gets wrapped up the Friday following that. And then by that point, we should hopefully be completely caught up. But nonetheless, hope everyone enjoyed the Christmas holiday. For those of you who celebrate it, hope everyone had a safe and happy New Year. And let's get right down to it. So at number 32 this week, dropping 3 spots on where they spent the majority of the beginning of the year, is the San Jose Sharks. This team is like 1-8-1 in their last 10. They go 0-4 on the week. Really not too much else to cover about them. The goaltending's been all right, but that's really been it, especially over this last stretch of 10 or 12 games. It's been not so great for San Jose. Number 31, moving up a spot, largely thanks to San Jose, is Anaheim. They do have a better record through their last 10 than San Jose. They're 3-7 through the last 10, but 1-3 on the week. Still not really much going well for them. They're, of course, still without Leo Carlsson. They're in some of their games, but then they have games like the one against Edmonton the other night where they just get completely blown out of the water. So, still a tough little skid here for Anaheim, but they're doing what they can, and they're frankly where they're expected to be. So they are at number 31. Number 30, also moving up a spot, again, largely thanks to San Jose, is Chicago. They go 1-2-1 on the week, 2-7-1 in their last 10. Pretty much the same deal as Anaheim. Some games they're all right. This weekend was a perfect example of that. They have an overtime game against Dallas where they at one point have a 2-0 lead. They blow that. And then a couple days later, they play Dallas once again and get their socks blown off 8-1. So it's a bit of a tough road for Chicago. Much like Anaheim, though, they're kind of where they belong, at least based on their roster on paper. So can't be too upset about that with them being at number 30. Number 39, dropping 1 spot, is Columbus. They're 1-1-2 on the week. Similar struggles that they've had really again all year. Pretty up and down. They had that big win against Toronto early on in the week, and then just kind of lay an egg against Buffalo. Just struggling with consistency, the same that they have really the entire year. Not going to harp on them too much because it's the same thing I've been saying for the last probably 10 plus weeks now. Number 28, dropping 2 spots despite their win against Columbus, is Buffalo. This team just has the same issues over and over and over again, and right now they still cannot get a save despite their offense being upticked just a bit. So they got to get something from one of UPL or Devin Levi now with the waiving of Eric Comrie. One of those two guys really has to step up if this team has any chance, but I think we're kind of beyond the point now that we're into January of this disillusion of them potentially making the playoffs, as fun as that could be. And we've seen teams like St. Louis do it before and make miraculous runs through the playoffs, but I just don't know that this Buffalo team has it, especially with the inconsistency that they've had in net. And frankly, there's not a hero like Jordan Binnington waiting in the wings for them. These two guys are their two guys. They don't have anyone else in Rochester, that's going to come up and save the day. So it's tough swimming for now in Buffalo, and they sit at number 28. Number 27, jumping 3 spots, 3-1 on the week for the first time in God knows how long, is Ottawa. They, of course, beat Buffalo pretty handily this week. One of their better weeks of the season to this point, but the problem being they're still 3-7 in their last 10 games. So it's like it comes in bursts for Ottawa. They get really good goaltending from Anton Forsberg. On Sunday, I believe he made like 46 saves, an unbelievable performance, but that's not something that they can count on to happen every single game. And frankly, you shouldn't be giving up that many shots. So, um, good week from them, but all in all, it's tough to be overly optimistic about this team with some of the issues they have going on. But they bring in a new GM and some changes to their staff overall. So we'll see if that shakes up anything, if there's any trades that come from that. But for now, they do jump 3 spots to number 27. Number 26, dropping 2 spots, 0-3 on the week, 4-4-2 in their last 10, is Montreal. Just a rough week for this team, but again, this is one of those teams that you kind of expect to be at the front end of this bottom row. Their roster on paper is not as bad as the likes of San Jose and Anaheim, but they're not really expected to be much further than this. So Not really anything shocking for me here. Sam Montembeau with a bit of a rough week, especially his game on Sunday. I believe he gave up like 4 or 5 goals on 20 shots, which of course is not great, but you have those games once in a while. So kind of in that stage of it is what it is for Montreal, as long as they're in competitive games, which they are still to this point. That's really all you can ask for as a Hab fan. I don't think you're in a position where you really want them to be pushing for a playoff spot for another maybe 1 or 2 seasons. Number 25, dropping 2 spots as well, is Detroit. This team continues to struggle since the addition of Patrick Kane. 1-3 on the week, also 3-7 in their last 10. Their offense is there; they just cannot get a save, which is tough because early in the year their defense and goaltending was phenomenal, and that's just not been the case over the last month and a half, really. Um, We'll see if they can fix that. I know they're still struggling with some injuries, especially in the crease, but they got three, supposedly NHL quality guys. One of them has to step up and start taking the reins and being the guy that's going to lead them through some games. And right now, it's just not happening. So it's tough for Detroit. I was excited about this team when they were doing really well early on, but the last 4 weeks, especially, they have just tumbled down this list really, really quickly, despite their offense still being pretty efficient. So we'll see if they can solve this, but it's kind of a tough spot to be in if you are a Red Wings fan. So number 24, moving up a spot despite a 1-2 record on the week and just 4-4-2 in their last 10 is Calgary. This again is largely in thanks to some of the teams below them dropping a good bit. This team, again, much like the likes of Montreal, has still been competitive in their games, but they need to start racking up the points if they want to make the playoffs. And I think this is a team that at least wants to be in the conversation come March and of course April to be in and around the playoff mix. So they got to keep things going again. Consistency has been an issue for them all season long. I've been talking about this week after week after week with Calgary, and they just cannot find it. So hopefully next week, for the 10th time, they'll find some consistency. But this week, 1-2, 4-4-2 in their last 10 is not going to cut it if they want to get into the playoffs, especially with a specific team in the Pacific climbing these rankings pretty quickly. But at number 23, dropping 6 spots, not that Pacific Division team, the Washington Capitals. This team has been brutal, especially over the last week. They go 0-2-2, and of course, you guys know how hard I am on this team because these are my guys, but they have been very, very, very bad lately, and frankly, they've been getting the results that they've deserved to be getting earlier in the year. The goaltending was holding them in a lot of games, winning them a lot of games, and now that's not happening. They continue to give up a bunch of shots. They get outshot just about every game, and even the games that they don't get outshot, they still find a way to lose them. So Washington, again, early in the season, I badgered them about being slow and not forechecking hard enough. The only thing this team really has above and beyond most teams is size, and they don't seem to be using it in every single game, and that's one of the only ways I think that they're going to consistently win games. So their record's still okay, but this week was a pretty tough one for them, and for that reason, they fall 6 spots to number 23. Number 22, same spot they've been for, I believe, 2 weeks now is St. Louis. They go 2-2 on the week, 5-5 in their last 10. Not really much else to say. They're not moving up. They're not moving down. They have been better, I think, since getting rid of Craig Berube, but still some of the same issues that were going on before his departure. The goaltending has been better. Joel Hofer especially has been really, really good as of late. But again, just some inconsistency issues, much like Calgary, that they need to overcome if they want to find themselves climbing up the Central Division, which, much like the Pacific, has a lot of teams looking to be involved come March and April. Number 21, moving up 6 spots, and here's that Pacific team that I was just talking about, Seattle. Seattle goes 4-0 on the week, and they're now up to 7-1-2 in their last 10. And I think if you isolate their last 8 games, they're 6-0-2, something along those lines. This team has been unreal over the last 2 weeks, and I don't really know what it is that's happened. Of course, Joey Daccord and Chris Drieger in the games they've played in that span since the injury to Philip Grubauer have been phenomenal. Joey Daccord especially probably deserves some goaltender of the month accolades for December because he was unbelievable. Um, the scoring's not up exceptionally. They're winning a lot of their games by pretty low scores. 2-1 overtime final against Philadelphia, the 3-0 win over Vegas in the Winter Classic. All these games don't scream a strong offensive team, but the defense seems to be back to its old self. And of course, Joey Daccord kind of carrying the boats, to reference David Goggins, for the Seattle team. So we'll see if they can keep it up. I still don't love what this team has on its roster, but it's hard to argue the results at least over the last 2 weeks. So we'll see if they can keep it up. It is exciting to watch. I do enjoy when this team is doing well. So hopefully they can. For now, they move up 6 spots from 27 to 21. Number 20, another team that went 2-2 on the week. They are 7-3-0 in their last 10, and it's Minnesota. Um, I think if this team had one more win on the week, I probably would have been able to rationalize moving them up a little bit more. But despite that really solid record in their last 10 games, I just could not validate moving them above some of the teams in front of them. So rather than harping on their situation, I'm just going to move right along to number 19, which is Carolina. Carolina goes 3-1-0 this week, 6-1-3 in their last 10. So they're really starting to ratchet things up. The goaltending for Pyotr Kochetkov has been better. The offense is clicking like we've expected it to, and the defense has been a lot better in front of Kochetkov, which is very important because for the first 25, 30 games, they couldn't keep a puck out of their net if it saved their lives. So, very good stuff in general from Carolina. They need to keep this up. Despite the struggles they've had all year, they're still second in the Metro, which feels weird considering I have them this low on my ranking. But nonetheless, good stuff in general for the Canes. We'll see if they can keep it up for now. They move up 2 spots to 19. I think I may have said 29, but 19. Number 18, 2-1-0 on the week, 6-4-0 in their last 10, so nothing overly impressive, but it's Arizona. This team continues to stay in the mix. They don't do anything that really, really blows you away and makes you go, "Holy crap!" Look what excuse me, what the Yotes are doing. But they're still involved. They're, I think, fifth or sixth in the Central in a division that's pretty tight. Of course, you have kind of the three top dogs there, but that wild card spot's going to be more than up for grabs, especially with teams like Arizona, Minnesota, and St. Louis all kind of in this middle of the pack. So it's pretty fun to watch them still. Connor Ingram has found his way back into these really magnificent performances after a week or two there of being a little bit underwhelming. So good stuff there for the Yotes. They sit at 18. Number 17, dropping 2 spots despite a 2-2 record this week and 6-4 in their last 10 is Tampa. Not really going to go over this one too long. Again, more so the teams moving in and around and above them that has caused them to drop. I don't really have any major concerns with them, but some of the teams moving down push them down, and then some of the teams that will be above them now kind of push them down to the 17 spot. So for now, they do sit 17. I expect them to jump up, but just some, if not necessarily iffy results, wins or wins, but the way they get the wins has been a little bit questionable for my taste at least. So for now, they sit at number 17. All right, moving right along to the top half here. Another team that drops a few spots despite going 2-2 this week is the New York Islanders. Same deal with Tampa. The results are not necessarily terrible, but the losses this week against Pittsburgh, especially that first one where they just get blown out of the water 7-0, is a really, really tough one. And their wins against teams that aren't performing all that well, looking at the Washington Capitals, and the results that they get otherwise just not all that convincing. They are still 5-3-2 over their last 10, so that's not bad, of course, and they're still in a playoff spot for the time being. But you have teams like New Jersey, Tampa Bay, all kind of breathing down their necks from the outside looking in. So you can't really let off the gas if you're a team like the Islanders, especially since they don't have some of the offensive upside that these other teams chasing them down do. You can only lean, in my opinion, you can only lean on Sorokin and Varlamov for so long. Those guys are going to get tired. They're going to have games where they're faulty. You can't bank on your goalie carrying you through every single game. And it seems to me like when they get wins, that's a lot of what happens, especially against teams that are, above 500 or in and around the playoff mix, etc. So, not a terrible week from the Islanders, of course. Hard to complain about 2-2, but I just want a little bit more from them. Number 15, and one of the reasons that the Islanders drop as well as the Lightning, is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh goes 3-0-1 on the week, 7-2-1 in their last 10, and they are seemingly one of the more streaky teams in the league. They go through these stretches where they really don't look good, and then something happens. In this example, it seems like that loss against Toronto really flipped a switch for them, and they have since been like a bear on the hunt. They have been unstoppable. They blew the Islanders out of the water, have been playing really consistent hockey, been getting really good goaltending from both Alex Nedeljkovic and Tristan Jarry, which, as I mentioned earlier in the year, was going to be very, very important for them. So all good stuff from the Penguins. As much as I hate to see that as a Capitals fan, uh, it's hard to deny the results. 7-2-1 in their last 10, 3-0-1 over the week. They are number 15. Number 14, dropping 4 spots. This team has started to cool off from their crazy hot streak a few weeks back, and that's Nashville. Nashville goes 1-2-1 on the week, 6-3-1 in their last 10. Their sole win this week was that kind of controversial win against Washington with the goaltender interference call, washing out the second Alex Ovechkin goal. So, not an overly convincing week, and just some other teams in this top half performing really well, which is the main reason that these guys fall so much. Not really going to dig too much deeper into that. That's frankly all it was. As much as I hate moving teams down for mediocre weeks, that's kind of what had to happen here in the case of the Preds. Number 13, another team getting dropped despite really just a mediocre week is Philadelphia. They go 1-1-1. They're 5-2-3 in their last 10. Hard to complain about that, especially since they still sit in a playoff spot themselves. But again, just some other teams hopping pretty significantly in front of them. I'm not overly concerned about this team. I don't have a ton of confidence. Again, much like Seattle, the roster on paper doesn't wow me. I wouldn't be shocked to see them fall out of this playoff spot kind of slowly and painfully for their fans. But for the time being, they're doing just enough to stay in the mix, and that's all you can ask for from this team that doesn't have a ton of raw talent, but seems to find themselves in literally every single game they play. So for this week, Philadelphia sits just one spot back at number 13. Number 12, also dropping a spot, and this is one of the more polarizing teams that only drops one spot, and it's Toronto. They go 1-2-1 on the week, 3-4-3 in their last 10, and the goaltending this week was tough. Ilya Samsonov is waived, I believe, yesterday or earlier today. Just really an palpable game for him to have against Columbus that probably had 3 or 4 goals that just can't go in on an NHL goalie, and that's the second time in I believe 2 weeks that that's happened to him. So I feel terribly for him. It's an X Capital. I want to see the guy succeed, but the results are the results. The numbers are the numbers. I believe I saw a stat on Twitter that was for any NHL goalie having played 10 or more games, he's dead last in save percentage at like an 840. That can't happen if you're the NHL starter, especially not if you're getting paid 3.5 million. So feel bad for Sammy. Hopefully he gets it back and is able to, get back in the big league Leaf sweater sooner than later. But for now, that was one of the reasons they struggled this week. They, of course, have the back-to-back the night after that and lose to Carolina, who's, a very strong team. So not overly concerned about them. I think Joseph Woll is expected to be back by February at the latest. But in the meantime, Martin Jones and I guess Dennis Hildeby is going to have to hold down the fort. So we'll see what happens there. But for now, they drop just the one spot to number 12. Number 11, jumping 5 spots, and this is a big one, is Edmonton. So despite still being in the bottom 7, I believe, in overall league standings, they're 3-0 on the week, 7-3-0 in their last 10. Clicking on all cylinders. The offense is still roaring. They beat up on the Ducks 7-2 last night, and I think McDavid only had 1 or 2 points. Draisaitl had 3, but it was like Warren Fogle and Ryan McLeod were the two guys carrying the weight. So that's terrifying for the rest of the league if they don't have to rely on their two big dogs to do the work to get them wins. Not good news for the rest of the league. And of course, Calvin Pickard seems to be giving them NHL quality backup goaltending, which is really all they need as long as Stu Skinner can maintain NHL average goaltending. So scary stuff in general for the rest of the NHL. Of course, we know what Draisaitl and McDavid are capable of. So 5 spots up for Edmonton at 11. We'll see if they can keep this climb going. Number 10, and this is the opposite of Edmonton. 1-3 on the week, 4-6-0 in their last 10, and they leave a dud in Seattle at the Winter Classic, and that's Vegas. They don't get a single goal. They've been a lot less convincing over the last 2 weeks than they had been really any other point in the season. The goaltending, of course, battling injuries all year to this point, and it was not really enough to get them to win the day, but of course they don't score, which doesn't help. So Vegas in a bit of a rut. I'm not overly worried. I think they'll get it back, but for now, just couldn't validate keeping them in that top 8 especially, but some other teams just really, really overperforming and could not validate keeping them that high. At number 9, moving up 4 spots, a team that had a pretty solid week but has a mediocre record in their last 10 is New Jersey. They go 3-1 on the week, 5-4-1 in their last 10 though. Again, the goaltending is just the main issue for these guys. Vanacek seems to have a good game and then a pretty bad game. Akira Schmidt, of course, gets called down. Nico Dawes gets the one game this week and he looked pretty good, so maybe expect to see more of him. But overall, the offense is, of course, the strength of this Devils team. Meanwhile, the defense and goaltending is kind of the weak point. We'll still see if they're targeting a trade for a guy like John Gibson at any point during the year. But for now, they're still just kind of chugging along. They're looking to catch up to a team like Washington, which I'm sure they're not too far back of doing at this point with the way that Washington's been playing and the way that New Jersey's been playing. So good stuff in general from the guys in red and black. They move up 4 spots from number 13 to number 9. Number 8, dropping 1 spot is Los Angeles. They go 2-1-1 on the week, so another team with just kind of a mediocre record, 4-4-2 in their last 10. But again, when you're in this top part of the board, really any kind of slip up can mean that you fall, and that was really all it was for the Kings. because at number 7, a team going 3-0-1 on the week, 7-2-1 in their last 10 is Colorado. They move up 2 spots from number 9. This team's been clicking on all cylinders, which again, I think I mentioned this last week or during a recap at some point. Despite the turmoil in the locker room and some of the seemingly friction that's going on, the record's still great. I believe they're still first in the Central behind maybe Winnipeg. They might be second, but just all in all, a very impressive team despite some of the issues they have on and off in net. Some of the injury bugs, they've got going on. Can't really complain too much about the way Colorado's been playing. So for now, they sit at number 7. Number 6, moving up 2 spots with an absolute monster of a week, is Florida. They take down their, opponents from the Stanley Cup Finals in Vegas. They take down the Tampa Bay Lightning, their in-state rival. They take down the New York Rangers, the number 1 ranked team in the league in the standings. And of course, they have that trap game in Montreal, which they also find a way to win because why not? So, a very good week. Despite the good week, they're just 6-4-0 in their last 10, so not anything wild there, but all in all, this team looked really, really good this week. Some really convincing wins. Both goalies looked very good. So good stuff, all in all, for the Panthers, who moved from 8 to 6. Number 5, moving up a spot. No, yes, moving up 1 spot is Vancouver. Vancouver 1-1 on the week, 7-1-2 in their last 10. Um, just felt that they deserved to be up a spot, especially because of the drop of Vegas. Of course, they were just 1 spot in front of them, so we see them move up a bit here. Not really too much to talk about regarding their results this week. Their only win coming against San Jose, so not anything too impressive there. That's a team they should be beating pretty much 10 out of 10 times. So we'll see if they have a bigger week this week with some more games, but for now they do sit at number 5. Number 4, also jumping a spot largely thanks to Vegas, is Boston. Boston did go 3-1-2 on the week, but just 5-2-3 in their last 10. I still didn't really buy into some of the criticism that a lot of people were giving Boston over their last few games, or I guess the last few weeks worth of games, I should say. But their record this week, especially, very, very good. The goaltending's still been very good. Don't have a ton of concern with this team that some other people have expressed, some other power rankings have expressed. So I'm happy with them at 4. We'll see if they fall off. Again, they do have the issue of their depth not being all that great on paper, but to this point in the year, they've proven that that's been a non-issue. So we'll see if the Bees can keep that up. For now, I have them at 4. We'll see if they can stick it out there for the long run at about the halfway point of the season, give or take. Number 3, same spot as last week, 3-1-0 this week, 7-2-1 in their last 10. This team's been really, really impressive, especially in the absence of their starting goaltender, and that's that's the Dallas Stars and Jake Ottinger. 3-1-0 with Scott Wedgwood playing, I believe, all 4 games. They, of course, take care of Chicago back-to-back. The first one a little bit closer than they'd probably like, but the second one in absolutely convincing fashion with an 8-1 victory there. This team's just rolling, man. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, I think, no problem. They are looking to make a deep run to a cup final, most likely. I think they have all the pieces they need. It's the same story I've been telling about this team week in and week out. They've got everything going for them. The goaltending, even with their starter out, has still been very good. So, not really any concerns about the Stars. They sit at number 3. At number 2, dropping 1 spot. That's right, we finally have a new champion of the power rankings. But for number 2, it's the New York Rangers. This team did not fall to any fault of their own. I don't think they go 3-1-0 on the week, 7-3-0 in their last 10. I just love what I've been seeing from this number 1 team. The Rangers have been playing great. Again, nothing inherently wrong with the way they've been playing. You can't ask for more from this team. They've been dominating the league since like week 4. But for the number 1 team, I love what I've seen from the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, early in the season, there was the issue of Laurent Brossoit was struggling to win them games. The offense was pretty inconsistent. They didn't seem to have the depth to really get things going. They were still working the kinks out from the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, how those pieces were going to fit. Now everything is gelled together. Both Hellebuck and Brossoit are playing phenomenal hockey. Um, all of their big guys are doing what's needed from them. I think I mentioned this in a recap earlier too. I think this team is the perfect example of addition by subtraction. I don't like the attitude that Pierre-Luc Dubois brings to a locker room. And I think it had been known for a bit there, the impact that Blake Wheeler had on that locker room, whether it be positive or negative. You can leave that up for your own interpretation. But they get rid of both of those 2 guys. They bring in the pieces from the PLD trade. And this team is just blazing hot. I mean, they are just like the most impressive team, especially against other good teams. Like I know it's a week old now, but their game they had against the Bruins, I believe, before Christmas was one of the most impressive games amongst two top end teams that I've seen all year. And that's just all the Jets have been producing. So it's been really fun to watch for them. They're the number one team for now. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers come back and sweep it right back from under their feet with how good they've been playing. But for at least this 1 week, I do have the Jets at number one. And that's it for these rankings. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know there's some picks in here that some people have been disagreeing with for a few weeks now, but that's why you watch more than one power rankings, probably, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe as well if you would like. It is free. And we'll see you tomorrow for another night of recaps. Thanks again.